I would welcome all my esteemed teachers, colleagues, and friends to the fourth keynote address of this very important conference, which is going on hybrid, blended, and e-learning. The keynote speaker for this session is Dr. Libing Wang, and who will talk about ICT in the delivery of higher education. And this is a topic which is close to the hearts of many of us. The chair for this session is Professor Pankaj Mittal. And before I request her to introduce and invite Dr. Wang for the lecture, I take the pleasure in introducing Madam Pankaj Mittal. Madam Pankaj is the General Secretary of the Association of Indian Universities. And very interestingly, she is the second woman General Secretary of this august body in its 96 years of history. Dr. Pankaj has been associated with higher education and in policy planning and management. And in fact, she has been associated before joining the AIU. She was associated with the University Grants Commission of India. Dr. Mittal is a Fulbright scholar. She did brilliantly in her MSc, and in fact, she topped her MSc and has done her PhD in agricultural statistics from IARI New Delhi. She has many achievements to her credit. In fact, she was the first regular Vice-Chancellor of the Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya of Khanpur. This is the first rural all-women university in North India. And this was her vision and her innovative practices that made this very humble Gurukul into an institution of repute. And it put this BPS Mahila Vishwavidyalaya on the international map. And this was her institution building skills and vision, where we have now, in this university, we have about 7,000 girls who are getting education from KG right up to the PhD level. She has traveled extensively. She has written extensively articles, books, journals. She has traveled abroad, representing both AIU and UGC. She has also received many awards and honors. She was a Fulbright scholar, and she has also got President of India Award in 2017 for her digital initiatives in higher education. She has also been granted the honoris causa from the Karnataka State Women's University of Bijapur. She has also got the Kimpro Gold Standard Award for Leadership in Education. This great institution builder has also been a member of various high-powered committees of the Government of India, like the NITI Aayog. She has also been in the General Assembly and the Finance Committee of ICCR. She has been associated with the Association of Commonwealth Universities, London. She has been on the pay committee for teachers in the Haryana state. She has also been a member of various selection committees of vice-chancellors. I mean, if I start counting the feathers in her cap, it would be exhaustive. And she has been a member of the planning committee. And today she is chairing this session. And I feel very honored to invite Professor Mittal to kindly introduce and invite Dr. Wang for the keynote session today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Fazia. Thank you very much for a very, very generous introduction. Thanks, grateful. First of all, let me thank ETMA and Professor Marmur Mukhopadhyay for inviting me for this particular conference and for allowing AIU to partner. And I'm seeing the number of participants who are there right now, 408. So this is very, very big if you consider the conference which are being held nowadays. So the very large number of participants shows that how popular the conference is. And then the topic of the conference, that is mainstreaming online and blended learning in higher education through supportive ecosystems. So this is very, very important, this session topic, because when COVID struck in India, India or all over the world, initially it was felt that it will be the sort of a very big dent on the higher education system will be there, no classes will be there. But slowly, the teachers started teaching online, the students started learning online, and it became sort of something as a routine matter that yes, everybody was teaching. But initially there were many difficulties, maybe with regard to digital divide, which is in the country, because India is a large country and there's a lot of diversity. There were issues with regard to capacity building of teachers, because our teachers were not used to online teaching. And but I must salute our teachers that they learned overnight and they started teaching online. There was the issue of capacity building of the students, because the students were also not used to online learning. They were used to face-to-face learning. And then at that time, now it looks like right now we are talking on Zoom, but at that time, all these platforms were not there, or they were just introducing it themselves into the market, or many of our teachers were not aware of them. So it was very difficult to sort of get attuned to those type of platforms. We at AIU did many conferences to do the capacity building of the teachers for using different platforms and what are the merits and demerits of different platforms. Then assessment and evaluation was another issue which created a lot of issue, especially in India, because offline it was not possible because of Corona, and online it was very difficult because of the digital divide. And slowly those proctored examination solutions started coming in. Similarly, placements, internationalization, everywhere there was a lot of issue. But then in India, we started learning, and then I'm very also optimistic that because India, just before this pandemic stuff, we had started a platform called Swayam, which is an India MOOCs platform, where there were very many sort of MOOCs courses, and they were curriculum-based MOOCs courses. And as per UGC regulations, 20% and now 40% of the courses in a particular program could be done through MOOCs. So that came as a savior in India. But today, before I go further in this topic, we'll hear Dr. Libing Wang, who is the Chief Section for Educational Innovation and Skill Development, UNESCO, Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, who is based currently in Bangkok. But before I invite him for the keynote address, let me introduce him to you. So Dr. Libing Wang is currently Chief of Section for Educational Innovations and Skill Development and Senior Program Specialist in Higher Education, based at UNESCO Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, Bangkok, Thailand. His areas of responsibility with UNESCO cover higher education, teacher education, ICT in education, TVET, ESD, and research and foresight in Asia and the Pacific region. Prior to joining UNESCO, he was a professor of comparative education at Zhejiang University, People's Republic of China. He was secretary of the Global University Network for Innovation, Asia and the Pacific. He was a visiting fellow at the University of Sussex and University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. He published widely in the areas of comparative education, higher education policies, and teacher education. So we have a stalwart who has been dealing with all these issues of hybrid education for many years. So over to Dr. Wang for the keynote address, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your kind introduction. This is Libing Wang from UNESCO Bangkok, which we are also Regional Bureau for Education, covering 47 member states in this region. And we work very closely with colleagues from India. And I'm very happy to be invited to make a keynote at this very important forum on hybrid, blended, and e-learning. Today, my presentation will be on mainstreaming online and blended learning in higher education through supportive ecosystem. As you can see, the key words is mainstream, which means that online and blended learning has not yet been mainstream, right? And why? Because we are lack of supportive ecosystem. So let's start by really saying that online learning was largely perceived as a supplement to the real learning in a traditional classroom setting before the COVID-19 pandemic. We have to say that unfortunately, Although we have an open university system to promote online learning for a long time, but for the traditional university system, conventional universities, there's a lack of trust actually. Why? Because there's a lack of confidence in the quality of online learning activities, because the internet is very slow, and there are always many disruptions to learning when you are using different platforms. That's why students, learners usually have a very bad learning experiences, right? They don't like learning online because the quality of audio and the video is very bad. Now, fortunately, we are now moving from 4G to 5G, right? And the transmission speed is much faster. And also, as Professor Panji just mentioned, there's also a lack of preparedness, both on the part of higher education institutions, faculty members, and even students. They are not ready, right? But if you also have a look at the system level, there's also a lack of recognition of online and blended learning at the system level, institutional level, and the program, even course level. I still remember when I was teaching at a university before I joined UNESCO 9 years ago, we are not allowed to plan any online delivery, online learning to our classes or sessions, course delivery. It's not allowed. And there was also people was always saying that, oh, you are not that committed teacher because you are teaching online. You are teaching over the weekend. You are teaching by telephone. We have seen a lot of examples, professors are very busy. They are prioritize their research and also their outreach activities rather than teaching, right? So I think these kind of things, and it's not being recognized. But fortunately, sooner after the adoption of the SDG 4 in 2015, UNESCO Bangkok, we launched a project to really initiate and pilot, stock take all the good policies and practices at institutional level. And as you can see, we published a book in the year 2016, far before the pandemic, which is about blended learning. So I think online learning is largely not by choice, but I have to say that new momentum, it's really generated by a forced reality, as you all know, that we are facing this pandemic with lockdown, travel restrictions, physical distancing. All these kind of measures make it impossible to continue learning in a traditional campus-based, classroom-based learning. It's not possible. So online learning has been used in almost all the countries. They are tried, even they are not ready in terms of infrastructure, in terms of institutional capacity, in terms of the preparedness of the teaching staff and the students. We just go for online modality of delivery, right? Now we are working together with private sector. We are working together with other international organizations. We are trying to keep this learning, continue. And it seems to be that it's a kind of backup plan or contingency plan, right? But we would like to say that online learning momentum to reimagine the role of technology in the delivery of higher education programs. In the past, we have so many advocacy research outcomes. It's still not enough. It's not that easy to let people to accept. Online shopping is now quite popular and widely accepted by people, right? Why online learning is so difficult? So I think it's all because we need to keep this momentum, really to think of mainstreaming online and blended learning higher education, especially in developing countries. And of course, the new normal is online and blended learning. We should not return to the old normal, where in-person learning was the dominant modality of delivery. I know that in many countries, people was saying that, oh no, we would like to return to this in-person teaching and learning, but not 100%. I don't think we need to return 100% in person. And of course, 100% in online is also not possible. We are not open university, right? And even open university, they are still also arrange some sessions for in-person, tutorial or these kind of things. So I think online and offline learning both had their own advantages and limitations, and we need to maximize the advantage and minimize the limitations. As you know, that actually for UNESCO, we believe that the use of technology can promote access, quality, and equity. In terms of access, it can benefit more people, right, than this physical provision of education. In terms of quality, of course, I still remember when I was a professor teaching, when I was a research student, we can see that teacher has a monopoly of knowledge. By having all this kind of paper-based publications, books, and they are the owner of knowledge to be transmitted to the students, right? But now with the internet, actually, as the biggest open educational resources, students, learners can get access to all the knowledges, all the informations, maybe even better than the teachers. So I think the role of teachers might be only to provide some theoretical support or methodological support, and these kind of things, right? And also you can see that, so many informations online. It's open educational resources. Of course, it's not that well organized. We have this open knowledge production platform like Wikipedia. I think you also have it in India and in China, also this kind of open knowledge, joint knowledge development platform. It's really very easy to learn, by yourself. So I think a lot of advantage and disadvantage. And of course, blended learning has been tried in many countries. For example, before the pandemic in Australia, it's very interesting, to see they put online and offline learning of a program 50-50%. Long time before the pandemic, right? It's not a way to reduce the cost. I think maybe we cannot think, oh, it's because they want to reduce the cost. No, because online, offline, online learning also have its very, very easy to connect, and a lot of common resources, and we are now having so many common tools, easy to learn together. And as you know, we already collect a lot of best practices, and we are happy to see another book which is published also about blended blended learning in Asia, and I think we would like to really seek the opportunity to scale up good experiences on blended learning to more countries and higher education institutions. Of course, from supplement to mainstream, it's really important that we need to prepare for. We need to really get the system ready to mainstream online and blended learning. I think mainstreaming is really a process of policy and infrastructure development. Although I hear that, of course, infrastructure is not our responsibility, right? But actually for a country, I think infrastructure is really important. Internet penetration rate and also the speed, transmission speed. It's very important. But of course, institutional capacity building is also very important. Mainstreaming really means legalizing, regulating, I think this term, maybe a lot of people who believe in decentralization don't like it, but regulation at different levels is very important. Institutionalizing, financing, we need to budget for it. Empowering and incentivizing, it's important to motivate people to really pursuing this online and blended learning. I think policy support from the government, this infrastructure development, upgrading, institutional capacity building, professional development, and continuing professional development of the teaching staff, as well as partnership and networking. It's really important. And of course, as I said, the use of technology has many benefits, which can promote equitable access by using technology. Of course, we realize that not every country has the luxury of having this high-tech, infrastructure. So UNESCO is also promoting low-tech and even no-tech solutions, which is also quite important. We used to have this kind of TV and the radio university and TV and the radio correspondence university. I think we also need to use these different levels of infrastructure to find a good solution. Of course, quality and excellence is also quite important. As I said, access to information has been improved a lot. Teachers no longer have the monopoly of knowledge, and the internet has become the biggest open educational resources. And I think this is really important. And also the use of technology can really make learning programs more diverse, flexible, adaptive, and relevant to the needs of the communities and the individuals. Recently, a concept of micro-credentials are becoming more and more popular. And UNESCO is also going to promote this flexible delivery of learning programs through full qualifications, micro-credentials, maybe prior learning, or maybe credits that can be transferable, recognizable under the national qualifications framework. I think for the micro-credential, it's really a way of downsizing our qualifications. People have to spend 4 years for a first degree, right? For a bachelor degree. Sometimes it's too long, and I think many people said it's not relevant. And I still remember some years ago, Google introduced a short-term course, which is equivalent to 2 years of programs provided by higher education institutions, and it's really highly recognized. So short-term kind of downsized learning programs in the form of micro-credential is really the way forward. But on the other hand, we have to see that higher education should be holistic. 4 years is not very long, and we need to be patient with our higher education process, because you cannot just only for shortcut and for immediate gains of the program. Sometimes relevance it's not that easy to assess, actually, and the long-term, mid and the long-term implications, it's not that easy to do. So we still need to be patient to education rather than criticizing, and sometimes we are saying that, oh, skills mismatch and also a lot of irrelevance. Then we need to. I think qualification should be supported by micro-credentials and by the flexible delivery of learning programs. And of course, technology can really help. Lastly, I think for sure, ICT can make learning system more resilient. I think we have a big lesson, learned a big lesson from this pandemic. And I think every country is now taking measures to try to upgrade their infrastructure system. Of course, we would also like to see at a national level, national visions, policies, and initiatives for online and blended learning. Recently, we just finished the third session of the Tokyo Convention Committee, which we already have 12 ratifications, but unfortunately, we haven't seen any ratification from countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia. But I know that some of the countries are close to the ratification. From the session, it's quite clear that the parties to the Tokyo Convention would like to, strengthen our efforts to recognize online and blended learning. That's the way forward. And we would like also to see national qualifications framework, external quality assurance mechanism, like qualifications framework to integrate this online and blended learning. Right? It should be mainstream. This is really very important. But also, it's still not enough. We would like to see national qualification framework to be implemented at subject level, at professional level, at occupational level, with online and blended learning to be integrated into the program planning, program development, and the course planning process. And this is really very important. And of course, we would also, this is kind of how can I say, we have a physical infrastructure. We also should establish academic infrastructure, like a qualification framework, like subject-specific quality standards, like program development and course planning templates, which should include online and blended learning. I think it's also quite important to have a physical infrastructure ready, as I said, to update this network from 4G to 5G. And we would also like to see common learning and communication portals and platforms to be developed from just learn from Madam Chair. I know that India also have established a national platform, a MOOCs platform, right? And we also did a lot in bringing a different national MOOCs network together, like Thai MOOCs in Thailand, Japan, we have JMOOCs, Korea, we have Korea MOOCs, K-MOOCs. In China, a lot of MOOCs platform. Some are supported by the government, some are developed by a consortium of universities, some are really developed by private universities. So it's very diverse, the platform. But whatever the modality, we would like to see common e-learning platforms and portals to be developed. But it's also not enough. I think infrastructure is important, but content is equally important, right? For quality education, you cannot see, oh, all the infrastructure is ready. I think content is even more important. And the MOOCs and open educational resources. I think the sharing of quality education resources, learning teaching resources is really very, very important. I think nothing is free, but the government should budget for the development and upgrading of quality teaching and learning content, right? I think universities don't like schools, you know, they have school curriculum standards, and then usually the textbook has been developed by different developers, right? Textbook developers, and it's not that diverse. But for higher education, I think many of the cases, the difference in the quality of the provision is really depending on the content, textbook, the kind of learning and teaching materials universities are offering, which is really important. So you can see some good university in the same subject area, they have a very good teaching and learning materials. We need to make sure that this can be shared with other universities if it's being developed with the public money, with the money coming from the government, I think government should make it mandatory for any government-sponsored content development to make it OER, right? This is really very, very important. Of course, quality software is, of course, it's also another issue. When it comes to institutional capacity building, I think it's also important. In many universities, they just have it on paper. But I think it's not enough to have integrate this online and blended learning in their strategic planning, but should also be supported by concrete staffing and budgeting policies. You've got to have people, have budget. Otherwise, it's only on paper. You are only paying lip service, right? So this is really important, and we would like universities or higher education institutions really to translate this online and blended learning requirements into internal templates, workflows, and regulations. This is really to operationalize, right? And another measures we would like to propose is really the establishment of a teaching and learning support center. I'm sure every university has a computing center, right? They used to help teachers to, fix all the problems, of using a computer supported classroom, all the things. But I think it's not enough. I think teaching learning support center should be able to facilitate innovative teaching and learning practices and provide continuing professional development program for the faculty. It's very interesting, the difference between university teachers and the school teachers is that school teachers do a lot of pedagogical study, but less on subject. But for university professors, they are very good in doing research in their own subject area, but they are reluctant to do this pedagogical studies. This is very interesting, and we are saying that really it's also important for university professors to do not only ICT literacy, but also pedagogical capacity and the capacity of doing quality assurance. And of course, we would also like universities to maintain online learning portal or repositories of subject-specific e-content. So this is, I think, when it comes to program and course level, it's very important that all this should be aligned with upstream frameworks like National Qualification Framework, subject-specific quality standards, institutional visions, and frameworks for teaching and learning, etc. We say course objectives, learning outcomes, and the modules of learning should be the same, whether it's delivered online or offline. But when it comes to modality of delivery, pedagogical consideration, learning assessment, learning resources, it's really different, right? With the support of technology, online and offline. And of course, the percentage of online and offline learning should depend on the nature and the needs of the study programs and the courses concretely. So this is, I think, down to the very operational level. We would like to see this online and blended learning to be integrated into program development and course planning. Just want to wrap up, and I think first, I think online blended learning will be the new normal, and it's already becoming the new normal during and after the pandemic, which is really transforming teaching and learning in higher education. Second, I think it's very important for us to join hands to create accessible and a supportive ecosystem to make this new normal happen efficiently and effectively. Of course, equity and excellence cannot be achieved without a functional ecosystem, that's for sure. And we would like to see legalizing, regulating, empowering, financing, and incentivizing should be the main way forward. And ecosystem mapping can help identify gaps and prioritize solutions. And of course, UNESCO stands ready to contribute. As you know, we have a big office in Delhi. which is covering South Asia. And as a regional office, we are standing by to support, and I would like to encourage you to really think of anything that UNESCO can really support through our office in Delhi. Thank you very much, and I would like to leave with you some of our publications that you can scan to download, which is open educational resources, right? By this Creative Commons license, it's under OER. So thank you very much for the opportunities again, and hope to be in touch with all of you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Thanks for the excellent presentation. You're very right that, of course, online education is required. Hybrid is the new normal, but the mainstreaming is yet to take place, because mainstreaming is taking place, of course, but very, very slowly. So we'll be open to question and answer, but before that, I thought for some of the issues raised by Dr. Wang, let me give you the Indian perspective, that in India, what we are going to do about it. And if there are any questions, whether to me or to Dr. Wang, we'll be very, very happy to take them. So when we talk of India, see at AIU, let me share with all of you that Association of Indian Universities, which in short we call AIU, is an association of at present 864 universities, and we are doing a lot of work with regard to academics, research, sports, physical, youth affairs, and equivalence of foreign degrees with the Indian degrees. Now, in all these things, technology is being used in a big way, especially after the onset of COVID. And you know that all over the world, especially in India, we were all thinking of sort of mainstreaming online education, or maybe encouraging our teachers to teach online, but it was not getting through. But the COVID, I think we found an opportunity in the crisis. So all that, I mean, COVID worked like a catalyst in sort of promoting online education. So when you talk of legal frameworks in different countries, in India, I would like to share with you that in India, we have complete 100% online programs, like the University Grants Commission, which is the main regulator for maintaining the standards of higher education in India. They have said that, okay, earlier it was only some courses. Now the complete programs can be online. For example, BA, BSc, BCom, they can be complete online programs. So that for that approval is being given, not to all, but a very few institutions, so that the quality is maintained. Because in online, we are more careful about the quality, because the numbers which are involved in a single class is very, very large. So full 100% online programs are approved in India. And with regard to hybrid learning, when we say that in the regular programs, how many online content can be there? So I would say that again, after COVID, it has become 40%, earlier it was 20%, that in a regular degree program, the students can take 40% of the courses which are online courses on the SWAYAM platform, which I shared with you is the India MOOCs platform, where we have curriculum based something like 2,000 courses, more than 2,000 courses. So any student who is here, if they want to join SWAYAM courses, it is absolutely free. You can always join it. So we are trying to legalize, but then again, I told you that AIU is doing the equivalence of foreign degrees with the Indian degrees. So right now we are equating the degrees which are held in physical mode, but online we have yet to approve. We are talking to the government that now that we have approved total online programs in India, so we should be able to approve it. I mean, give equivalence for foreign degrees as well, but it has yet to come. So that's why I completely agree that mainstreaming is not fully there, but it is happening slowly. Similarly, one of the issues which you raised, which I also earlier raised, was capacity building of teachers. So in our universities, the teachers, because they were not used to online teaching, and they started online teaching during Corona, but then teaching online and teaching online effectively are two different paradigms. So effective online teaching entails many more things. So again, what in India we did through Association of Indian Universities is that we partnered with a UK-based company called Quaspir. And in Quaspir, in collaboration with Quaspir, we opened a platform called QuedX on the pattern of edX. It was QuedX, QEDEX, in which we have something like 50-60 courses right now. There will be more in future, which will basically be training the teachers on how to teach online effectively. So it won't be on, these are not subject related, discipline related courses, but only basically on pedagogy, online pedagogy, including sort of how to do the instructional designing, how to make good effective presentations, how to have a student engagement, how to have a strong student engagement, communication skills. So like this, many online programs are there, which will sort of guide the teachers in teaching online effectively. Similarly, when you were talking about the e-content, of course, e-content is very important, especially if you want to go for blended learning, hybrid learning, or flipped classroom model. So again, in India, we had a project called e-Pathshala, e-PG Pathshala and e-Pathshala, in which curriculum-based e-content in the form of open education resource. Like, you know that MOOCs is a platform in which structured courses are there, online courses are there. But this was a open education resource which the students could refer to at any point of time. And especially, for example, IITs. So in IITs are the premier institutions of India, Indian Institutes of Technology. So in IITs, whatever is taught in the class, that came as a open education resource on a platform called NPTEL. So in NPTEL, many programs were there, which were almost the same, which were taught to the IIT students. So I used to jokingly tell the students, if you didn't get admission in IIT, don't worry. The IIT professor will come to your home to teach you at your convenient time on your laptop. So that type of a facility was there, that the way Dr. Wang mentioned, that the earlier it was felt that only one teacher who is teaching in the class, we have to learn everything from him only. But now there is a possibility of learning from anywhere. So even edX, which is a platform of MIT, the CEO incidentally is Indian, Anant Agarwal. So once Anant Agarwal met us in a conference, and he told us that once I was standing on the Delhi airport, so one boy came running and he touched his feet. He says, what happened? He says, sir, because of you, I got my job. He says, I hardly know you. How can you get job because of me? He says, sir, I did 10 courses from edX. And then after doing those 10 courses, when I went to Tech Mahindra for the job, I was selected against many students who were graduates from very reputed institutions, because my knowledge base was much better than them. So that's why he was sort of thanking him. So what I want to say is that in future, because of the technology, the jobs and degrees would be delinked. So the jobs will be based on the knowledge base you have. And that knowledge base, for the students who are joining with us today, if you have the passion for learning, sky is the limit, because so much of open education resources, so many of MOOCs courses, due to technology, are available almost free of cost on your, say, click of the mouse. So that type of a opportunity is existing today, which was never there at least when we were studying. And that is why the new education policy, the National Education Policy 2020 of India, which is again a very forward-looking innovative document, which tells that what India should be doing in future for education completely, including like school and higher education. It lays a lot of emphasis on the technology, use of technology in teaching learning, use of technology in research, use of technology in management, use of technology in overall governance of higher education. So technology is being used in a very big way, and that is the future. You're totally right that the hybrid is the future, but then mainstreaming needs, of course, legislative inputs from the government. It needs a lot of attitudinal change. The attitude has to change, because many times we feel that online is inferior to face-to-face. So that attitude has to change, and the online has to have good quality. And once it has a good quality, attitude will automatically change. So that attitudinal problem is there. So Dr. Wang, thank you very much. But one thing I would like to ask you is that, because in different countries, there are different rules for online education, and in some it is approved, some it is not approved, legalized, or of course, it is looked down upon online education everywhere. Anybody who has studied through online education or an open learning system in India, they say, okay, this person would not be that brilliant. That's why he went for online. So what are your views on that? How can we change that attitude?
Yeah, I think the attitude is changing now. We can see that the recognition of online and blended learning has been quite different from what we have in the past, actually. And it's been more, and as far as I know, parties to the Tokyo Convention, 2 years ago, they said no to online learning. But because of the pandemic, last year, we came up with a joint statement on COVID-19, and we said that we are committed to further strengthening the recognition of online blended learning, because it's a way of qualifications obtained through non-traditional modes, and of course, online blended learning can be this way. But of course, you can also see that this is also quite sensitive issue, because if you relate higher education to the general agreement on trade in services, you would see that cross-border supply is totally online delivery, right? And it's not being recognized by many of the countries, because otherwise, you know, your people in India can easily get a degree from United States, then it's not good for domestic universities. I think no country would be that open, right? So I think mobility and also this recognition has its limitations. I think we would like to see, you know, this online delivery is within a country. Then we would like to see if within a country, qualifications obtained through online or blended learning can be quality assured. Then let all the parties to the convention to discuss and have more transparency, leading to comparability of their degrees, to lead to the equivalency arrangement based on comparability, and then move forward for a comparability, reducing substantial difference in quality assurance. You know, so this is our plan. I think. Of course, technology can play a very important part. And I know that in India, congratulations, you have a very, very good visionary new national policy on education. Our office is learning, actually, this from India. And we discussed also on this. And I'm happy to see that technology, as you said, is very much emphasized. On, you know, as one of the enabler for the futures of education, right? And the UNESCO also published a new book, a new report on the futures of education, as you know. So I think technology is really the most important enabler. And unfortunately, I think the only positive part of this pandemic is really to accelerate the people's recognition of online blended learning. That's what I can say.
That's why I think pandemic has worked like a catalyst in promoting online education.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to learn that actually India already done a lot. UGC, right? You allow fully online courses to be, to be accredited. And of course, you also provide this online pedagogy training and also OER platform development. You know, we really admire you, and if we can work together to take stock of the good policies and practices from India to feed into our regional guidelines, so that will be very important. So maybe we would really continue to work together, and I'm accessible, as you know, if you would like my email address. I think the organizer has my email address. We would be very happy to work with colleagues from India, because you are really the source of inspiration in this region, and you have traditionally you are the hub of higher education. You know, if I ask people, where are you trained? Where are you studied? Oh, in India, in Delhi, you know, like in Manila,
Yes.
Philippines used to be also the higher education hub. At that time, even no Korea, no China, So I have to say that you are really the source of imagination, inspiration, and also expertise. So really, we can really work together in the future as UNESCO. We are working for 47 member states in this region. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Wang. It is really true, and India is really emerging as a global leader. You see the CEOs of all the top bodies like Google, Microsoft, now Twitter also is an Indian. So we are proud to be an Indian. Two, three things I wanted to share with you. That one, that this World Higher Education Conference, which is going to be held in Barcelona in May. What we did in India was that there are 10 themes for that particular conference. So what we are doing is that for each of the theme, we are holding a webinar in India, and we will be compiling that 10 themes and making a country paper for India, which will be sent to United Nations. So this is what India thinks about all the 10 themes. So those are very widely attended conferences where we are wanting to have the view of India on each of the themes. And second thing which we are doing right now is that Association of Indian Universities holds the National Conference of Vice-Chancellors every year. 6 conferences we hold, 5 at regional level and 1 at the national level. So this year the theme of those conferences is realizing SDGs through HEIs, because we believe that higher education institutions can contribute in realizing all the SDGs, not only SDG 4, which relates to education, but all the 17 SDGs. So in these conferences, we are clubbing four SDGs together, and then we are having experts from United Nations, also NITI Aayog, our line ministries, where we are discussing that how higher education institutions can contribute in realizing SDGs. So I'm sure the report which will come out, which will be an eye-opener, because I feel that realizing SDGs without HEIs is almost an impossible task. Because in India, we have like 37 million students are there, and about 1,000 universities are there, 40,000 colleges are there. So such a big intellectual base is there. So they should be involved. So these are the 2 things which we are doing in collaboration with United Nations. But one thing which I want to understand from you is that this mutual recognition of qualifications is a big issue, because somewhere the credits are less, somewhere the definition of a credit is different, somewhere the duration of the degree is different. But in case of online, all these things go away, because online duration doesn't matter. So how can UNESCO assist in mutual recognition of qualifications which are earned through an online mode?
Yes, I think this is a very important question. As you know, that the Tokyo Convention, the basic principle for recognition is based on information comparison to share no substantial difference. So substantial difference is a key term, and we are still debating on the definition of substantial difference. The traditional way is really to link substantial difference with the duration of study. As you know, in the UK, their master degree only 1 year, right?
Yes.
But in China, when I was studying, 3 years, we reduced 3 years to 2 years, and then now back to 3 years. But in the UK, master degree is a transitional degree. It's not actually a full degree, because bachelor to doctor, right? So I think substantial difference people would argue, duration of study can be the most important things. Somebody would say substantial difference can be concerning the modality of delivery, and they are preferred in person, and now online is not becoming more and more important, right? And mixed and blended is the way forward, right? So substantial difference, we are going to organize this seminar or webinar on substantial difference. What does it mean? And basically, we would like to argue that substantial difference should be based on learning outcomes. Learning outcomes should be the key, dimension to define substantial difference. This is really the things, and as you know, that the quality assurance of higher education, we used to be focusing more on inputs, right? How many library books, how many professors with PhD, how many university buildings and laboratories, space, all these kind of things, right? But it's useful when we are developing, in the process of developing, because it's good to push the government to increase investment, right? But when we are achieving massification of higher education, and I think maybe India, you are moving towards universal access to higher education. Yes. This is no longer valid. I think that conception of quality should be focused on outcome, learning outcome, and as a way to achieve learning outcome, which is very pedagogical consideration, right? We cannot pursue outcome without thinking of the process. Like, it's not a quality education, you are excellent without a soul, actually, because you are rich in scores, but you are not that rich in this social emotional, cannot be tested, this social emotional skills, all these universal values, and also, global citizenship, education, sustainability, all these kind of things. And also, I think you are right that we are going to organize a lot of meetings on substantial difference, how to address substantial difference. I would like to take this opportunity to thank your Indian Association of Universities for your support to our global higher education conference. And if we would like to be informed of the outcome of all the discussions or deliberations you may have, and just send me as outcome, I can really connect you with the organizer, and also to see if we are also consolidating, regional inputs to this global.
That will be very good. Yes, yeah. Of course, we will be sending, we are in touch with UNESCO.
Yeah, and also another issue, I really like your idea of really, because reorienting university teaching, research, and social service towards the achievement of SDGs is really very important. SDG can be an overarching, framework to restructure our study program, our research priorities, and our engagement with the community. Yeah, so we did a lot, actually. Of course, not every university are familiar with SDGs, right? It's depending on university. Some are quite close, some maybe no idea about the SDGs. So thank you very much for promoting SDGs.
Thank you. I completely agree with you. I mean, the input, the basis which we use for equivalence of degrees, mutual recognition of qualifications, mostly is input, whether in terms of credits or in terms of number of years of education. It should be outcome based, but the most difficult part is how to measure the learning outcome. That becomes very difficult, how to measure the learning outcome and how to ensure that they are on parity with each other. So, Dr. Wang, we have some questions from some of the participants. Fazia, you will take them or I should take them?
Whatever you decide, ma'am. I have also written the questions, so you take the call, ma'am.
Okay, so one question which is in front of me, let me ask that, then maybe you can add. This is Mauna Gupta. She is asking that, Dr. Wang, kindly let us know about how we as teaching fraternity can be a contributor in education with UNESCO.
What? As
a teaching fraternity, how our teachers can contribute in education to UNESCO? I mean, how can we contribute in the objectives of UNESCO, or maybe taking the quality higher education further? So how can teachers of India work with UNESCO in sort of achieving that goal?
Yeah, as you know, that UNESCO has a very holistic framework for teacher development, starting from working pay and working conditions, in service and preferred service and in service training, and also continuing professional development. So we have a program. Now we are in the process of developing our work plan for the next biennium. As you know, UNESCO is planning biennium, right? So we got a budget for one biennium, 2 years, then we are planning for our activities. I would like to say that for the regional office, our priority will be focusing on preparing teachers for several purposes. One is for hybrid learning, because hybrid learning, we usually call hybrid learning for school education, blended learning for higher education, but hybrid learning for school. And preparing teachers for hybrid learning, which means, like in India, you provide this online pedagogy training to the teachers, right? And I think it's quite similar. And if in the future, if we have this project, maybe we can engage our colleagues from India based on your experiences on how to, provide online pedagogy training to our school teachers. And of course, other areas will be preparing teachers for global citizenship, which is education, which is also one of our priority, and preparing teachers for sustainable ESD, education for sustainable development. And I think the fundamental tools we are going to promote is really the teacher competency framework and teacher standard framework, which is overarching, right? Whatever we would like teacher to have, we need to put it into teacher competency framework, right? Including ICT, and we need to do mapping of the existing competencies, because in social science we always invent new concepts. Actually, it's the same. Many of the things are actually overlapping with each other, right? So we don't want to increase the teacher education curriculum by keep adding things into this curriculum and a competency framework, right? If we can really synergize. So this will be the things, and then teacher competency framework can be the basis to inform teacher policies and practices, including teacher appraisal, teacher professional progression, right? So this will be our main, and recently we just finished the first phase of our regional study on teachers' continuing professional development. And we engage India, and we invite a professor from India to join this study. And we received this first draft of this country case study. And it's really very interesting, and we are still digesting, and we'll be doing a regional synthesis report. Actually, as you know, that teachers' continuing and professional development can be one of the areas that we would like to see, because pre-service training is also, in many countries, they still do not have university-based teacher education training programs, right? These are still at the secondary level, but I think this continuing professional development is also very important. We would like to see this not from regulatory point of view, managerial point of view, but also from this. It's part of teachers' pay and the condition, actually, to have access to continuing and the professional development opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. I will ask Fazia if she has some questions.
Yes.
And
Thank you,
otherwise, after that, I will also share with you a very, very beautiful concept of ABC, which again is based on technology and which many of the participants may like to know. But first to Fazia for the questions.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. There is one question from Professor P.K. Sahu, and he has asked, how do you visualize teacher and institutional autonomy in this centralized bureaucratic management structure of the university systems of developing countries?
This is about university, right? Teachers, how do they have the operational autonomy?
That's right.
Right? Yes, it's a really important question. I think the relationship between the teachers, universities, and the government, and also external agencies, it's really very fundamental, and traditionally we have this academic freedom and institutional autonomy. It's referred to the United Kingdom because in the UK, all the universities started with autonomous, without any money from the government, right? So they gradually developed this kind of tradition of institutional autonomy and academic freedom. But as you know, since the founding of the University Grants Committee in the 1919, I think you may know that in the UK, there's a buffer organization like UGC. In India, you still have it, but they change a lot in the UK, right? And then there's more government intervention rather than institutional autonomy. But in the forms of, I think the relationship between government and the institutions is that they are not seen by issuing circular or government, order to ask you to do this and that. But rather, they would like to use this funding mechanism, funding for teaching, for research, really to make you accountable to the taxpayers' money, right? So as you can see, for higher education, basically it's a relation. You know, on the one side, academic freedom and institutional autonomy. On the other hand, social accountability. Social accountability, because you are financed by taxpayers' money. Even you are private university, you are financed by students' tuition fee, right? So I think this is really the relationship between this academic freedom and the social accountability. And if you have a look at the situation in the United Kingdom, which is totally different from what you can see, you know, there's no UGC in favor of universities. They have a higher education funding council, totally implementing the funding formula developed by the government. So you can see, you know, in terms of teaching, right? They used to introduce a kind of bidding system to encourage universities to fighting with each other to reduce the cost per capita for teaching. And for research, they have a research assessment exercise, brand universities into different levels, 5 points, 4.5 plus, all these kind of things, right? So this is all, you know, you have to see that the relationship between universities and the government is changing. And it's no longer totally autonomous, it's regulated autonomy, which I can see. And for sure that for university professors is still a lot of room to operate autonomous, you know, you have operational autonomy, but university professors are increasingly subject to the regulation of the external. You have to align your work with external upstream framework, this framework, national qualification framework, a lot of, you know, requirements. I still remember when I was teaching, there's so many requirements coming from this Department of Teaching and Learning. They give us, you have to develop this and you have to develop this. So I think, but the difference between university and the school is that in terms of textbook, teaching and learning materials, it's not being centralized, I can see. So university teachers still have a lot of room to do your own teaching and research. But of course, there's increasing internal regulations in the form of accountability. And this is a reality, I think. So what we can see is that to call upon the government to really give some spaces to the university professors. We cannot brace. Sometimes, you know, you can see, I used to be a professor. I know that in China, every year you have to be assessed in terms of how many publications, what level, kind of levels of journals, you know, and how many book chapters. No, it's no credits at all. So people don't want to work with each other, right? And you are assessed in terms of research money. If you got research money from the government, it's multiplied into some point, no, have an extra way. And if you have money from private sector, maybe less important. You know, if you have international money, then it's more. So these kind of things, I was really tired of these kind of things. I know that, I don't know the situation in India, not that easy to survive. Yeah, it's not publish or perish. It's alignment, or I don't know. Thank you.
In India, we have a new term called graded autonomy. So in graded autonomy, we say that autonomy is not available at the same level to everybody. The institutions which are good, they will get more autonomy. The institutions which are less, well, quality-wise, they are not that good, they will get less autonomy. So it is a graded autonomy of grade 1, grade 2, and then grade 3. So that is the term which we have coined for the universities and the colleges, so that autonomy and accountability go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think this is really important. Should be, yeah.
Yes, there are a few more questions. There are people who want to know about how to improve how to teach effectively online, one. And secondly, Dr. Shivanand wants to know, how does UNESCO help teachers in supporting children with special needs?
How to teach effectively online. To be honest, I'm not in this area. But again, I would see online pedagogy is very important, which is totally different from offline teaching and learning. And I think there's a lot of advices and suggestions. I think if you can search online. And recently I saw a lot MOOCs, hosted by University of the Philippines, Open University. They just provide some learning modules on the teaching effectiveness online for online learning. And I think it's very technical and it's very specific. But what I can see is that actually really all the pedagogy is really about the relationship, not only between teachers and the students, learners and the facilitators, but also evolving the relationship between you and the teachers and the learning and teaching materials, even learning venues like classroom, like local community, and even workplace learning. So the pedagogy is no longer very narrowly defined into teacher and the student relationship. Actually, it's much broad, to cover all the stakeholders and all the factors, that are involved in teaching and the learning process. So I think for online, actually, the relationship is quite different, right? And you have to think of the attention level and also how to engage people. I think there's a lot of things. What was the second question?
The second question was, how does UNESCO help teachers in supporting children with special needs?
Yes, I think it's not under my direct responsibility, because inclusive education, of course, inclusion is targeting people from disadvantaged group, right? And we can see that in terms of disadvantaged group, it's different depending on countries, economically, culturally, and of course, many other domains that can identify disadvantaged people. So I think, yes, we've produced a lot of training materials. And yeah, if you can write to me, I will forward you to my colleagues. And I think just this year, we launched a MOOCs online courses on teaching for this disadvantaged group, So if you can write to me, I can connect you with my colleagues who are in charge of inclusive education and also CMIL, because as you know, Southeast Asia Minister of Education Organization, they are just upstairs. We are working together, and early this year, we launched a course on this for teacher training. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think one last question: how does UNESCO help pre-primary teachers?
Let me respond to that
question. Please.
Because I told you that if you want to learn that how to teach online effectively, AIU has a platform called QuedX in collaboration with Prospect. In that, you will find many online courses which teach you how to teach effectively in an online manner. So if you're really interested, that is very cheap, also around $20 per year for unlimited number of courses. So that is the cost associated with it. And you please go to AIU and you will find the QuedX platform where you can have many courses which can guide you on how to teach online. They are all credit courses, very good courses. And ABC, okay, you ask your question, then I'll talk about ABC.
Okay, I think this is perhaps the last question. It's already time. Sir, this is about how UNESCO can help pre-primary teachers. Because, and this is more of a bit of whining, because nowadays pre-primary teachers are underpaid and not recognized as much as teachers in the higher education sectors. So
I think this kind of problems actually, how can I say? As you know, UNESCO have 5 functions, which is how can I say? laboratory of new ideas and innovations, which, as you can see, we just published this. Each country has the obligation to apply their policies and practices to this. So once it's not being observed, I think concerned people can really write to UNESCO, or so. I'm not sure if we can, but normally it's very sensitive. Our relationship with our member states, it's how can I say? But in terms of normative instrument, standard setter, I think we have this kind of function. So if you can write to UNESCO section for teacher development at headquarters, maybe you can get the answer. So normal way will be for us to forward your request to the National Commission of UNESCO of India, right? And then for them to follow up, to resolve. So this is something. Of course, other three functions is capacity building, catalyst for international cooperation, and also clearinghouse. So that's the official mandate of UNESCO. And I would say this question, maybe it's related to the standard setter and the monitoring of normative instruments of UNESCO. And if it's being not observed, of course, there's a channel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now there were there is this this was so greatly appreciated that you have talked in the larger context and not just with reference to India, because there are about as one of my participants said, Dr. Shivanand, there are about 200 participants from Bangladesh. So there is this question from this our colleague from Bangladesh. How is UNESCO helping teachers in Bangladesh?
Yes, thank you, colleagues from Bangladesh. I just talked with our colleagues in our Dhaka office on our support to Bangladesh in the area of higher education TVET and also teacher development. And I think, of course, we have our office in Dhaka, and all the needs should be coming from your ministry through National Commission for UNESCO to our office in Dhaka. And then our office in Dhaka would forward this to us at the regional office to see if we have resources and expertise to support. Usually this is UNESCO is many, also one UNESCO, but we have different levels, and functions are also quite different. I have to say that we didn't do much in Bangladesh at the regional level from us. But I think we are not try to increase our presence in Bangladesh. And of course, I also like Bangladesh because you are not lack of expertise, actually. You have so many qualified people, very good, not only in speaking and writing, but also, conceptualizing or implementing all these kind of things. So yes, if you have any demands, please contact our office in Dhaka. For higher education, usually if we have resources, for example, we have a project financed by Career Funds in Trust. Decide the beneficiary is really very important, and every year, at the beginning of every year, we just launch an online survey of the needs from the countries through National Commission for UNESCO. Then we synthesize, we analyze, and we prioritize our resources. For example, we are now supporting Vietnam in the implementation of their qualification framework. We are supporting Mongolia in the development of their National Information Center for Higher Education. We are supporting Afghanistan last year, also a lot, and Kyrgyzstan, right? But if we haven't received anything from the National Commission, we presume that there's no needs. This is a bit tricky because sometimes we have to do like this. If we are collecting needs directly from people, it's not that. I think you should understand our limitation. Actually, we have to do like this. So thank you very much, and I hope that we can do a lot in Bangladesh. We have a new program specialist in education in our Dhaka office. She seems to be very ambitious. So I hope we can do a lot in the future.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Madam Secretary General AIU to please say a few words. And finally, I would request Professor Mukhopadhyay to say the concluding remarks, please. Professor Mittal, please.
Thank you, Hazia. I understand we just have 10 minutes with us.
Yes.
I'll take 3-4 minutes and reserve 5 minutes for Professor Mukhopadhyay. I just wanted to share one interesting concept of ABC, which may be of interest to all the Bangladeshis who are there and to Dr. Wang. So in the new education policy, which I said that is relying a lot on the technology, we have a new concept called ABC, which stands for Academic Bank of Credit. So Academic Bank of Credit is a bank which is like in a commercial bank, you deposit money. In this bank, you deposit credits. So how you deposit credits is that you do courses from different universities, and for every course you have done, you go to the Academic Bank of Credit. In your account, it will be indicated that, okay, you have done this course from this university with this grade and these many credits. So keep on accumulating the credits, and once you have a threshold number of credits, then you can redeem it for a degree from any university from where you have done 50% of those credits. Now, this is a concept in which the students are almost treated like a king, because the students can do any course from anywhere. Now it's not required that if you are doing, say, BSc Physics, so you should be necessarily studying chemistry and mathematics. You can be studying music, you can be studying history, geography, economics, political science, anything. So the student is allowed to pursue the passion. Second thing, the lifelong learning. It's not that the education stops with your, say, degree program, whichever you have learned, or it stops with the institution wherever you're studying. So it's a lifelong learning concept where the students can learn from anywhere. I mean, they can learn anything, means any course. They can learn from anywhere, means any institution, whether 1 university, 2 universities, 3 universities in India or abroad. And then they can learn from any mode also. It could be face-to-face, it could be online. So a beautiful blending of all the concepts to give complete autonomy to students is ABC, which was not possible if technology had not been there. So therefore, thanks to technology and thanks for using technology effectively in higher education, which is evolving concepts like ABC, which is giving a true flexibility to the students to learn anywhere, anytime, anything from any university or institution. So these type of concepts are there. More you can find in the national education policy. The Bank of Credit has already been established by the government of India. The regulations that how it will be running have already been issued by University Grants Commission. So any Bangladeshi student who wants to learn through ABC route, you are welcome to do courses from the Indian university. So there is no stop on that. You can learn courses from any Indian university. With this, I would like to thank Dr. Wang for a very, very good presentation and a very patient hearing and answering all the questions of our participants. And I'm so excited about your presentation that I'll definitely try to have a collaboration between AIU and UNESCO so that we can both work, because our aim is the same. So we want to work in collaboration with you on many projects where we can be taking the quality of higher education further, and especially online education, which is the topic of today's conference. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Mukhopadhyay, for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'll say that it's not opportunity given to you, but you have given the opportunity to ETMA to come and grace this occasion. I'll have to make just 2-3 points. My Bangladesh colleagues, please understand, Dr. Wang, I had the privilege of working for UNESCO. I was a consultant to UNESCO. I have represented my country to several forums in UNESCO in Bangkok, Beijing, Geneva, Manila, Paris, and all that. I have some familiarity with the UNESCO. For my Bangladesh colleagues, please remember, every country has a national commission for cooperation with UNESCO. They actually connect to that, and that's a government. They connect to the UNESCO. So normally UNESCO does offer some support here and there, but best is to do, and Bangladesh has a very strong presence of UNESCO. If you go to the World Bank education sector, invariably it is Bangladesh colleagues. Once I spoke in English in Washington, first thing I got a retort in Bengali. Don't you speak in Bengali? I said, of course I speak in Bengali. But for example, by Matiul Alam, how do I know that he's from Bangladesh? Alam I can find in many other countries. So Bangladesh has a very strong presence of UNESCO. My next important point is more academic for both Professor Mittal as well as Dr. Libing. Higher education is a sector which cannot be seen isolated from employment market. The employment market dynamics decides the higher education sector. For example, government job in India at the moment is only 6%. It will further reduce. India's graduate population is less than 5%, Bangladesh is 2%, and OECD countries are around 33, 34%, with the highest at 48%. The whole question is, government had taken qualification as an indicator of quality, which is not the case anymore. As Professor Mittal pointed out very nicely, the private sector employment does not depend upon qualification. It depends upon skills and quality. Can you do the job? That is where the micro-credentials from credible organizations will be much more valued than a qualification. The delinking of qualification from jobs was first proposed in 1986 policy of India. It did not work much except in some private sector. So whole question is that slowly and steadily we'll get into a situation where this market dynamics of 6% employment in government will further reduce. And if you go to further diversification of 6% in government job, 84% are non-graduates. Please understand the dynamic. Despite we are all sitting education people here, 84% of total educated, total government employment are not for graduates. So we need to reconstruct our concept of higher education altogether, and that is where Professor Mittal made certain important point, but there is something she said that you can collect any of these qualifications. It's called graduation, liberal graduation, there is no specific. So important point that I want to make in terms of Professor Libing Wang's statement, it's a very important concept, mainstreaming. Dr. Wang, my understanding of the market and the subject that I've seen globally, it is the market which will do the mainstreaming, not the teaching community. If you look at Jamieson and others writing, teaching is the most conservative community among all professions. And this is a person who has specialized in brain research. But market will drive it. Because if I can show a credential of edX or FutureLearn or Coursera, I'm sure Professor Mittal will not be able to ignore my credential. Because if I bring an edX credential, background is Harvard. If I bring in another credential, Professor Mittal will know, oh, that is Stanford. So the whole dynamics will dramatically change as the market condition changes and the employment market changes increasingly. All over the government, all over the world, government will be shrinking its own employment domain, opening it up for the private sector. And I've been to China also many times, both for UNESCO as well as for the government of China's invitation. And let us see whether we can do some collaboration in the future. But I think this was an excellent session. And I sent a message to Dr. Mittal that it is very important that AIU collaborates with UNESCO, because AIU is not a very small ordinary organization. It has a very significant role that it plays in Indian higher education. That's why collaboration with AIU is far more important with UNESCO than other collaboration. As a small organization, we can always collaborate in a project. But in a main collaboration, I think organization like EIU is significantly important. Thank you, Dr. Wang, for coming over and joining us in this conference. And I'm glad that Professor Mittal was able to take the time out, because for Dr. Wang's information, our parliament is on, and when the parliament is on, any head of the institution is actually tied down. Her hands and feet all are tied down. I fortunately got rid of it 14 years ago. Others don't go out of the city without prior permission. And Dr. Mittal is still having that chains within which I'm really thankful to Dr. Wang and Dr. Mittal for gracing this occasion. Very useful for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, and I really enjoy the session. It's not only my presentation, but also this kind of discussion. And then I learn a lot also from you. It's really, especially from Dr. Mittal, it's about academic bank credit, which is really very innovative. I agree with you that maybe in the future we can learners can DIY, do it by yourself, DIY their qualifications by learning with different providers. And then maybe in the future, the universities can be becoming an organization to validate the learning experiences. Like we see, London University used not to be a university, teaching university. It's just a validation agency, So yeah, it's very exciting, and thank you very much. And also, where is Professor Posh? And thank you for your invitation. And I hope that this is the beginning of our new engagement with the colleagues from India. We used to have connections with this national university. I think we still have connection with Dr. I don't know if you know Tilak, my friend Tilak, and also our former colleague who used to work in IIEP. What's Verghese? Professor Verghese.
I am from the same institute.
Yes. So
we
work a lot.
From NITI.
Yes. I also know very well of your former chairman of the UGC, Dr. Professor Prakash. We met every year because he was there. He was Prakash, Professor Prakash.
He is no more the president.
Very, and I've been to Hyderabad and also to Delhi several times. So I really love India, and as I said, you used to be the hub of higher education, right? And you have to revitalize. I think that's we can get a lot of expertise from India,
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the opportunity, and hope we can stay in touch.
So thanks to all of you for a very, very brilliant session. It was really good. I really enjoyed the talks. Thank you very much.